The Celestia Code, Chapter 4 Surprises. Jigsaw took our canteens down to the oasis pool to fill them while I scanned the desert with my spyglass. The landscape was completely lifeless for miles around. That's the nice thing about a big, empty desert, I told myself. It's really hard for things to sneak up on you. Not like the Everfree, where there could be who knows what around every bend in the path. 1. By the way, these thoughts had nothing to do with the timing of the monster attack. That's pure superstition. Since we had visited the Dragon's Cave, I had come up with another half-dozen plausible reasons for not taking to the air, though I did pop us up out of the box canyon we had wandered into. Even dragging my hoofs, it was only going to take another couple of days to reach the ruins. I sighed. Ferreting out knowledge was what I was all about. Why did I think I could change the outcome by delaying? I sighed again, put the glass away, and went to help Jigsaw. And that's when the monsters attacked. The first one erupted out of the wet sand in front of Jigsaw and grabbed her with its huge, bony talons. She was still sucking in breath for a scream when I hit the thing in the head with both forehoofs. I hadn't even thought before lunging at it, flapping with all my strength to increase my speed. Its head snapped back, giving me a way too close view of its shark-like maw, and it released Jigsaw, who fell to the sand with a heavy thump and a gasp. I heard rather than saw the second creature as it burst out of the water behind me. I bucked instinctively and felt my hoofs skitter off something hard and thin, most likely a reaching claw. Jigsaw yelled as the first bunyip recovered and tried to grab her again. The thing looked like a cross between a giant crab and a shark, only uglier. We were in a very bad position, and the best thing to do when in a bad position is leave. I jumped on Jigsaw, wrapping my forehoofs around her barrel and flapped hard. We shot straight up as the claws of the creatures ripped through the air below us. I took a quick look around and spotted a large spire of rock a short distance away. I angled my wings and slid down through the air until we gently touched down its flat top. "Are you okay?" I asked Jigsaw. She winced and took a deep, shuddering breath. "Yeah, ouch! What's wrong? Are you hurt? Let me see." "It's okay, Twilight, really. I'm just scraped up a bit." She took another deep breath and winced again. "I think my ribs are going to be sore for a while, though. Holy stars, you're strong." I groaned and smacked myself in the forehead. I'd probably hurt her worse than the monster. "The earth pony part of me," I explained lamely. "I'm not quite used to it yet. I'm really sorry, Jigsaw. I should have just teleported us away from there when the first monster let go of you. I don't know what I was thinking." She shook her head. "You got us out of there in one piece. I'm the one who messed up. I walked right into a perfect bunyip ambush spot. Things have been going so well up until now that I got careless. We should have stuck to small rocky waterholes. I read the same books that you did. I should have realized it too." "Yeah, but I'm the one who—" "Okay, I'm pulling rank, Jigsaw. I'm the princess, and I say I'm the one who's to blame." She stood there for a second with her mouth open and then snapped it shut. "Okay, then." "Good," I nodded. "Right." She nodded. "I'm glad that's settled." "Oh, it isn't settled yet, princess." "What?" "I'm keeping the expedition journal." She smirked at me. "So I get to write this up. You're going to be a hero whether you like it or not." We stood there glaring at each other for about a second, and then we began to laugh. We laughed until tears streamed down our faces. We laughed until we both collapsed. The bunyips peered up at us from far below. They must have thought we were crazy. The first part of our journey in the true wasteland south of Dodge Junction had actually been familiar to me. We crossed a steep, crumbling ridge of rock early one morning and caught a hot breeze from the plains below. "Oh my goodness!" cried Jigsaw. "What is that awful smell?" "The gates to the underworld," I told her. She looked back at me with a weird expression. "You're not kidding, are you?" "No, not at all," I smiled. And if you think it's bad now, you wouldn't believe what it's close up. Without magical protection, the fumes could knock you out. Really. I saw birds drop right out of the sky. Fortunately, we are not heading in that direction. So... Jigsaw hesitated and cleared her throat. When were you near the gates to the underworld? I chuckled. I actually had to go all the way down to the mouth of Tartarus to get Cerberus chained up again. It's kind of a funny story. I told her all about my little misadventure with the time spell, and she listened very attentively but kept giving me these weird looks. And, she said once I had finished, you did this alone before your ascension, when you were just a unicorn like me? Yes, I replied. All my friends were trying to disaster-proof the rest of the kingdom. I remember that, Jigsaw said thoughtfully. The dean had us locking up the more interesting volumes in the library, and the theoretical magic department had to suspend all upper-level demonstrations and experiments for a week. I gave her a sheepish smile. All my fault, I'm afraid. She was quiet for a long while after that. I supposed she had been terribly inconvenienced by my little freak-out, and now that she had some pony to blame it on, she was a little miffed. I didn't blame her. When we had gotten beyond the range of the stench of the underworld, or the wind had shifted in our favor, we stopped for lunch. Jigsaw was still a bit subdued, but at least she was talking to me again. I wish I was better at reading subtle body language. It seemed to me that she was being shy, embarrassed. That couldn't be right. I used a bit of magic to summon up some fresh watercress sandwiches which I knew she liked, as a sort of apology. She smiled at me and said, Thank you, Princess. Hey, I said. We are on an adventure here, no need for formalities. I know, she replied, but I can still call you Princess when I feel like it. She took a bite of her sandwich and made an appreciative sound. She swallowed and said, And right now I feel like showing a little respect, okay? I shrugged. Sure. I was so confused. So I started in on my own meal. Sandwiches are simple and immediately understandable. I rubbed some healing salve I had gotten from the Kura on Jigsaw's rib when we made camp for the night after the bunyip attack on a solid rock and far from the nearest waterhole. I expected her to protest, but she let me make a fuss over her without comment. In fact, she didn't say a word. Then, as I was laying out my bedroll across the fire from where she lay, she spoke up. Twilight? There was something in her voice, a plaintiveness that surprised me. Yes, Jigsaw? Would you mind if I waited for her to go on, but when she kept silent, I asked, What is it? She shook her head. Never mind. That made me even more concerned. I stood and walked around the fire to her. She turned her head away and said, No, really, I'm fine. I reached out and lay a wingtip across her withers. She was trembling. Jigsaw! It's just a delayed reaction. I'm a grown mare. Yep, that's me, Princess Clueless Sparkle. I'd become so inured to horrific evil in the last few years that I hadn't even considered how Jigsaw must have felt about the bunyip attack. She'd probably never been in mortal peril before in her life. I brought my bedroll around the fire and smoothed it out next to hers. Then I lay down next to her and wrapped my wing around her. She leaned against me, still shivering occasionally. I still have nightmares about the T-Rex thing sometimes, I told her. Really? Really? I pressed my head against her neck and stroked her back with my wing as I whispered into her ear. But I've got a secret weapon to keep the bad guys away. Friends. Friends who will watch my back, friends who will listen when I'm concerned, and friends who will just be there when I need them to be. I held her until she stopped shivering and her breathing slowed and deepened, and then I was able to sleep too. All day I had been feeling like some pony was watching us. I even flew a search spiral around the place we had chosen to stop for lunch. Cactus and coyotes, not much else. Everything okay, Twilight? Asked Jigsaw as I landed. Well, I didn't see anything out of the ordinary, I replied, except that the canyon is very near now. We should get to the edge by nightfall. I frowned and dug the tip of my hoof into the sand. But I still can't seem to shake this feeling. We're almost to the ruins, it's probably just nerves. I grinned. Jigsaw was getting to know me pretty well. Probably, I agreed. So, she stood up and levitated the lunch things back into her pack. Let me excuse myself for a moment and then we should hoof it. Best thing for nervousness is to get it over with. I had to agree with her. I took care of my own business and then we struck out on the final leg of our journey. The Daring Do books skip right over the hours and hours of just putting one hoof after the other, which comprise the largest part of any adventure. It seems like a very sensible thing to do. The canyon was pretty impressive. It was deep and twisty and had lots of spires and side rifts. Very picturesque. On top of one very large isolated mesa in the loop of a very large meander of the canyon was a ruined city. It had been built out of local stone and looked almost as if it had grown out of the rock. It would be a short flight across the canyon. I could even teleport us both across with minimal effort. Jigsaw stood close by my side, saying nothing. She hadn't said much since lunch, content to just trot along behind me. Well, I said, why don't we get a good night's sleep and start fresh in the morning? She gave me a brilliant smile. That sounds nice. I made a fire and put the tea kettle on while Jigsaw laid out our bedrolls. I still had the weird feeling that had been plaguing me all day, so I swept the desert behind us with the best detection spell I knew. Nothing. We ate our dinner and only then I noticed that Jigsaw had set our blankets next to each other. I wasn't sure what to say, or if I should say anything. I delayed a bit, cleaning and stowing the dishes. Jigsaw went to her blanket and lay down, watching me. When I'd finished, she smiled at me again and patted the blanket next to her. I usually read a bit before going to sleep, so I carried a small book over with me, lay down and opened it up to my bookmark. Jigsaw shifted over until she was pressed against my side and then lay her head across my neck. Are you okay, Jigsaw? I asked, more than a bit confused by her actions. She sighed. As long as I'm next to you, princess. Oh no. I set my book aside. Jigsaw! I hesitated. What could I say? How had I given her such a wrong impression? What should I do? Should I do anything? Yes, your majesty. She shifted her head and began to nibble behind my ear. I think I was on the edge of panic. Don't call me that. She moved again and her soft lips began to work down along my jawline. But why not? You are majestic. So beautiful, so strong. Okay, full-blown panic mode. What had I done? What had I said? It had to be my fault somehow. Why else would she suddenly act so... Oh, lovey-dovey. Yeah. I pushed her head away and locked eyes with her. You know I like being called mistress. There it was, a split second of surprise, just a flash of uncertainty and then a slow, seductive smile. Oh, of course, mistress. How can I serve you? I grabbed all four of her hoofs and hauled her up into the air in front of me. She gasped in shock, and I'm sure she could feel my anger at that point, but she made one last try anyway. Oh, mistress, please be gentle with... Shut up! I gave her a shake and then hit her with a short blast from my horn. Her disguise peeled away from the black chitin underneath, revealing her true form. Where is she? Did you hurt her? Tell me! She struggled in my grasp, her wings buzzing and her fanged mouth snapping. Let me go. I can call the swarm and they will... Call them! I hissed. Bring them here and I will burn them from the sky. I had to stop and close my eyes for a second. The rush of adrenaline had me shaking and nauseous. I took a deep breath and continued. You have just one chance to survive the next few seconds, and that is to tell me where Jigsaw is, right now. The bug believed me, which was very good for both of us. All right, she gasped. I'll tell you, if you promise to let me go. If you tell me where she is, I said in a cold, shaking rage, and she is unharmed, I will let you go free. I give you my word as a princess of Equestria. How do I know you will? I lifted a hoof-sized rock up next to her head and put energy into it until it became molten. The changeling cringed away from the heat. You don't have any choice, I snarled. Jigsaw threw her hoofs around my neck, still covered in green goo from the cocoon she had been trapped in. Thank you, Twilight, thank you, I was so scared. She had been trapped since noon when the changeling had caught her alone just after lunch. I stroked her mane, not caring at all that I was being covered in noisome slime. It's okay, Jigsaw, you're safe now. You promised to release me, the still-bound changeling called from behind me. Jigsaw flinched away from the creature. I turned slowly and the changeling flinched away from me. You promised, she whined. I began to slowly pace towards her. No, please.